Hey everyone, I'm ashleyandcosplay. Today, I'm going to be showing you how I made my super cool Marauder cosplay from Fortnite. Not only does it include how I made this mask, but also all my props, including a really cool stink bomb prop that you can make yourself. Also, have you noticed anything? Have you noticed anything? What? What about now? Did you notice now? I have my own merch! You can find a link in the description below to some really cool stuff, including my logo and some of my original artwork like this little Ollie and my Ollie t-shirt. But be sure to check it out. It is super cool and I appreciate all the support. Now, anyway, enough talking. Let's get into it. I really think I'm gonna like cry. Alright, we're just jumping right in with the mask. I'm actually going to blow through the build of this pretty quickly because I got this template from Cosplay. It's linked in the description below and you can follow her tutorial and her template to make the base of this mask. It's an amazing template, it is totally worth it. And there we go, there's the base of the mask. Now we can start making it look how we want it to look. To start getting my clean seams, I like to use my Dremel and sand every single seam where the foam pieces meet. After sanding, I use Quick Seal and apply it with my finger to all the seams. You can take some water onto your finger and use that to help smooth things out even further. I actually let the first coat dry and then apply at least one more coat of Quick Seal on top. After looking at a lot of reference images, I realized there's this sort of crack in the mask on the right side, so I marked it out with a Sharpie and then I'm using my wood burner and just burning right into the foam. Now when I paint it, that area will be nice and recessed and look really cool and dimensional. I didn't actually film the painting process, but I sealed it with 3 coats of my Plasti Dip, and then used a glossy off-color white spray paint, and finally coated it with a gloss clear coat to make it look nice and polished and neat. This is what it looked like after that. It's pretty flat and boring, so now I use some hand painting and a mix of acrylics to make it look a little more dimensional, a little dirty, and just generally cooler. I like to build the paint up slowly, and sometimes I mix a little bit of water in, that way I can dab it away with a paper towel, and just kind of slowly add paint, take it away, maybe add a little bit of a darker color, take it away. Just kind of keep adding, subtracting until you get like the kind of cool effect you're going for. You can't really mess this up. I decided to do this in areas where there was kind of like strong angular shapes to sort of create shadows and just kind of think about where dirt would build up to. Just kind of look maybe at your reference images and other images of similar objects and just go from there. For that crack on the cheekbone area, I mixed up a really dark brown and added quite a bit of water to it. That way I could apply it right inside there, take a paper towel, wipe away the excess, and it left behind the cool dirty effect. You're probably going to want this to actually stay on your face, so we're going to need to use some elastic. I only had really thick elastic and couldn't find any smaller elastic, so I just cut it right down the middle, and then that left behind a stretchier, thinner piece of elastic. Pretty easy. To get things like webbing and elastic to attach to foam and not pull apart, I like to create a sort of like foam sandwich, which means I'm gluing it to the foam, but then I'm also layering a piece of 2mm foam on top of it. That way it kind of just, I don't know the logic, but I haven't had anything pull apart when I use this technique. It works really well. You can use hot glue or contact cement, but honestly hot glue seems to work really well for this too. Like I said, not going to question the logic, but it works. It looks so cool, and also kind of scary. I was trying to think of ways to make this even cooler, and I noticed in the game their eyes sort of glow a little bit, so I had these little LED lights I got off of Amazon. I'll drop a link below, and I decided to place those right inside the eyeballs. Well, the footage of me gluing them in, the camera was practically pointed at the ceiling, but you get the idea. I just used a little bit of hot glue on the top, and it attached perfectly fine. They're very lightweight LEDs, and it still left plenty of room for me to be able to see, but you can't really see my eyeball. With the mask done, it was on to making some of the other props. Of course, I decided to make the stink bomb. For my base of the stink bomb, I went to the dollar store and picked up these plastic shooter glasses and also some like translucent file folder dividers, and I still have my LED lights. My idea was to take the yellow or the orange. I decided only going with the yellow, but my idea was to roll it up inside that plastic glass, and that would create this sort of like smoky yellow color inside of the glass look thing, you know. So I rolled up a piece of paper to put inside the glass and kind of measure out the size I needed. Then I was able to translate that onto my translucent sheet thingies. This looks really orange here, but you'll see at the end that I got rid of the orange sheet and just had the yellow, but I needed a way to diffuse the light, so I used some of my polyfill to just kind of shove in there amongst the LED lights, and it worked pretty well. Cat! Getting that base shape down was honestly the hardest part, and it wasn't that hard at all. Now I just had to actually make it look like a stink bomb, and I did that by layering up pieces of foam pretty much everywhere. This is a drastic transformation, and I will explain. I straight up forgot to film everything, but as you can see, I just layered up different pieces of foam, I rolled them and glued them onto the tube, and just kept stacking. This is all a lot of very basic shapes. Once I had everything made, I just went ahead and painted with acrylic. When I've been hand painting with acrylic, I don't actually seal the foam first. It's been working totally fine for me, especially with pieces that are sort of weathered like this. Because I need to access the lights to turn them on and off, I pretty much made this top piece like a cap, and it'll pop off in a second here. Oh, there it goes. So yeah, I ended up just rolling that foam around the outside, gluing a little lid sort of shape to it. This is all foam and it just slides right on. Now I can actually reach inside, get to my LED lights, turn them on and off, pop the cap back on, and we're good to go. On to the next prop. Honestly, what appealed to me about this cosplay was all the weird and wacky props. So now I'm making this sort of like arm gauntlet, like brass knuckle spike situation. It's a really weird piece, but this was kind of fun to make. The way I get started on any prop is I just try to tackle the basic shapes first. For starters, I started making this gauntlet cuff piece that'll go up on my forearm, and you can see that right here. From there, I was able to build these other pieces that shoot off from it. There's a slightly thinner piece where I used a thinner piece of foam that goes down and curls around the rest of the forearm. Doesn't look like much yet, but you just have to start with the basic shapes. To get that chunky piece of foam to curl better, I hit it with my heat gun and was able to kind of form it better and then glue it together with contact cement. I then jumped ahead and cut out another piece of 10mm foam that would cover my knuckles. Here's the shape I used for my spike. There's 3 big cartoony spikes on the knuckles, and I made them by creating that triangle pattern with the curvy bottom and then rolling it up on itself and gluing it, and then it created this nice result. I recommend just rolling up pieces of paper and cutting them and trying to create your own template to get the shape that you want. Here's how we were looking. I added another piece to the wrist to kind of stabilize everything, but I needed a way to attach those 2 pieces together. What I created was this little interlocking shape here. The white foam is about half the thickness of the black foam, and it definitely has some flex to it. So I just sort of contact cemented those guys together. I really jump around a lot in this, but this is just how I work, where I jump between different pieces. Anyway, I used elastic to kind of create a little band that my fingers could slide into and keep that knuckle piece on my knuckles. There's quite a bit of elastic in this, so strap in. Like, literally. Like I did earlier with my mask, I ended up cutting one of my elastic strips in half to make it a little bit thinner and stretchier of a piece, and I used that to put between the wrist piece and that piece that kind of bends down from my hand. This will let it move so that when I like close my fist it'll stretch, but also be able to expand back when my hand is open. I realized that piece on my wrist was flapping all over the place, so I added a thicker piece of elastic that will go right around my wrist, so I could slide my hand right through all those pieces. Here was the whole thing all finished. It just needed some more details to make it look a little more exciting. But as you can see, it works really well. I can move my hand and my wrist however I want, and it'll bend with my body. It's pretty cool. I decided to turn to my foam dowels. In the limited reference images I had, it looked like there was a tube that goes along the side of it, which makes it look really cool and mechanical. Foam dowels are pretty versatile. In addition to that tube I have there, you can see where I sliced pieces and kind of created these little rivet button shapes on the side of the forearm, and I also cut pieces to put on that wrist section. When it came to painting, I just went ahead with my acrylics straight onto my unsealed foam. With all these props and the mask done, I actually needed an outfit to wear. I thrifted this nice jacket that I thought would work well for this. And then, referencing a lot of images, I just sketched the design in chalk right on top of it. And then I went in with several layers of acrylic paint. I love acrylic paint, especially the cheap variety, but you really do need to do at least 2 coats. As you can see, I'm starting to finally get somewhere here. Now I've got my basic shape and design down, but I needed to start adding some dimension to make it look actually cool. I dipped into my cheap eyeshadow palette that I like to use for weathering cosplay and create some shadows on certain sides of these pieces. I also took it one step further and used black and white paint to create shadows and highlights that look really cartoony. And of course, I couldn't forget about the shoulder piece too. And then it was time to suit up. I incorporated some other parts of different cosplays like some fingerless gloves, a bandana, some bandages, and other things just to kind of make it look all hodgepodge and pieced together that was very fitting for the Marauders. I love this.